Now you're watching Gearz.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. You know, one thing that always comes up when you're talking car and truck projects is cost. And there is no doubt that cost is a major factor in any car or truck project. Matter of fact, it can be the deciding factor on whether you go with an original restoration or a full custom ground-up build. And when you look at some of the prices that custom and classic cars are bringing at auctions these days,
wow! $400,000.
it's not uncommon to see vehicles bringing hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. But the question is, are they really worth that? Or more importantly, does it really cost that much to build or restore a classic? Well, obviously, there's a lot of things that help determine the value of something. But if you have something historic and really rare and really big, well, those can all work together to really raise the cost and the value of something. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
Where the highway meets the track. And here they are in Lionel's brand new trains and trucking sets for your kids.
There is no question that most gearheads are also train nuts. Matter of fact, it's a good bet that virtually all of us had some sort of an electric train set or layout when we were kids. And as cool as the modern trains with their powerful diesel engines are, there is just something about the older steam-powered locomotives that draw people's attention. Maybe it's the size, or those huge drive wheels with all those moving parts, or the big plumes of smoke and steam as it huffs and puffs, or that unmistakable chugga-chugga sound, whatever it is. A steam locomotive is what pulled the fabric that built America, and people are mesmerized by it. The problem is, most steam locomotives were retired by the late 1950s. So, unless you're older than this truck, or extremely lucky, you've never seen one in operation. About the closest you could get is a museum or one sitting in a park somewhere. And Centennial Park in Nashville, Tennessee is exactly where engine number 576 sat for decades. But how cool would it be to pull that thing out and restore it? Man, it'd be awesome. Now, obviously, it's big, like we talked about before, and it's rare, but is it historic? Well, let's take a look at that. Delivered in the summer of 1942, number 576 was one of 10 484 engines that were easily identified by the yellow stripe that ran down the side. Known as the Yellow Jackets, the engines were fast and smooth. How fast? Well, nobody knows for sure, because the longer you held them open, the faster they went. But 90 miles an hour was common, and at least one was clocked at around 110 miles an hour as they serviced Nashville, Chattanooga, and Atlanta, moving people and cargo as World War II came to a close. But times were changing. Jets and rockets were starting to fill the sky. And on the tracks, diesel engines were rapidly replacing the old steamers that, in comparison, seemed to be old, smoky, smelly relics from a bygone era. So, in 1953, all of the engines in Nashville were scrapped except 576. She was presented to the city of Nashville and placed in Centennial Park. And there she sat, relegated to be a backdrop for numerous wedding photos and album covers for over 60 years. Fortunately, the story doesn't end there, because the Nashville Steam Preservation Society had a plan, and that was to get old 576 running again.
I mean, there's just something about the steam engine that just captivates everyone. I mean, it's something that you don't see every day. It's gone from our public view. So to see one static, you know, is one thing, but to see one in operation is a complete sensory experience. It really just captivates your entire attention.
The largest obstacle there was what had nature done to the locomotive for the 50 years that had been in the park by that point.
Of course, the first two things you need to address on any project is the cost and who's going to do the work. And on something of this magnitude, with a $2.5 million price tag and the tools that it's going to take to make it happen, That's going to have to come through donations. And of course, the workforce that's actually going to turn the wrenches and do the work over the course of several years, that was going to have to come primarily through volunteers.
As far as hand tools go, because of our excellent fundraising efforts, if we needed it, we were able to go buy it. Like I said, our donors were very kind to us. A lot of tools have been donated. As far as our workforce, we are very diverse as far as having both young and old guys. Having the older guys to teach and mentor and show the younger generation is what's going to allow us to carry it forward.
So, with those two main obstacles out of the way, the next big challenge was moving the massive locomotive to the shop where the restoration would take place. And if you think maneuvering a car on a trailer in town is tough, try moving over 300,000 pounds of engine and tender through the stoplights of downtown Nashville. In this case, it's good to know the right people. Now, once the engine was delivered, disassembly started in earnest, with documentation and organization being key. Because when you're dealing with 70-year-old parts,
I'm below 316. Wow.
It's important that you don't lose any of them.
There's a lot, millions and millions of nuts and bolts that came off of the locomotive, and every single one of them has a home, and it better find its way back to it, is all I'm going to say.
In a world of economic uncertainty, there will always be a need for quality tools and people who can use them. That's why becoming a Cornwell tool dealer is one of the best career moves you can make. With routes available all across the nation, it's a great way to be your own boss, supply high-quality tools to professionals, and make some real money. If you're tired of working for someone else, have the drive to succeed, and want a career that can be successful no matter what happens on Wall Street, there's a Cornwell tool truck with your name on the side.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where today's show is all about size and really big restoration projects. And we've been involved with a lot of them over the years. From the Memphis Belle to driving the mighty Lark, to building Sergeant Rock and heavy metal. But one of the biggest projects you're going to see in both cost and size is the current restoration of Nashville Locomotive 576 by the Nashville Steam Preservation Society. But before we get back into it, I bet that most people have no idea how a steam locomotive actually works. So we're going to take care of that right now. Boiling water to make steam is an effective way to make power, and steam is still used today to power everything from ships to utility plants all over the world. Now, when water boils, it turns into a vapor called steam, and that builds tremendous pressure when confined. So this process is basically converting heat energy into pressure energy. Now, this pressure can then be used to turn turbines or push pistons. And this pressure is so powerful that it can not only move a heavy locomotive, but also pull a long train behind it. Now, the way a locomotive works is the fuel and water are stored behind in a special car called the tender. Water is then pumped over to the engine to make sure the boiler is full, as this is where the steam comes from. Fuel from the tender, in the form of coal or wood or oil, is either shoveled or augered into the firebox to maintain the fire that boils the water. The heat from the fire is pulled forward through metal tubes called flutes that are submerged in the water. And this creates more surface area for the water to absorb the heat from the fire and quickly boil. This creates steam that gathers in the steam dome at the top of the boiler. Now, when the engineer opens the throttle, the pressurized steam flows down to the piston on each side of the front of the locomotive. Rods connected to the piston push the main steam valve back and forth, directing the steam to each side of the piston at just the right time to make it move back and forth. and subsequently turn the drive wheels. Then the used steam shoots up through the smoke box and out through the stack. This is what makes that distinct chugga-chugga sound of a steam locomotive. Okay, that's how it works. Now, how do you restore something like that? Well, check it out. With the locomotive disassembled, one of the first steps was to remove the tubes and flues in the boiler. Now, this required cutting the welds on each end and pulling the old tubes out. Repairing and replacing rivets also played a major part in this project, and there is no modern way to do this. A special hammerhead is put into a huge air hammer. Then the rivets are heated red hot in a forge, and then quickly set in place with a big pair of tongs. Then, while one person holds a bucking bar against the domed head, the rivet shank is hammered down tight against the metal, leaving a second domed head on the other side. Now, if done properly, these won't leak, move, or come loose, ever. Now, at this point, things got really serious, as the front pilot or cow catcher was pulled off, so the trucks and drive wheels could be cleaned up and restored. This gives a whole new meaning to the term frame-off restoration.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization, but instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gearz Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gearz Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where today's subject is trains, real ones, and what it takes to restore a vintage steam locomotive, like Nashville's 576, to running condition to where you can actually take a ride on it. Take a look. Now, the next step was the boiler needed to be media blasted to get rid of decades of rust, scale, and debris. Obviously, this is a slow, tedious process. And it not only needs to be done on the outside, but also on the inside of the boiler as well. And with the blasting done, the integrity of the metal could be determined. And as expected, some trouble spots were found and fixed.
We found some weld repairs in a corner of the boiler that the railroad did way back in the 1940s likely. Welding techniques were not as well known and understood back then, so to us that's a red flag to take a look at that for problems. And we found pretty much what we would have expected. There's some cracking here that you can see and in a few other areas. So we've cut that area out, it'll be replaced, and we're actually going to improve it by using slightly thicker material.
After that, the inner firebox was rebuilt with new metal to make sure that the fire stays on one side and the water stays on the other. And if you were wondering where all these bolts went on the outside of the boiler, now you know.
One hole down, 400 to go.
Now, of course, the old cab was rusty and deteriorated like most old vehicles. But instead of fixing the old one, the plan was to use it as a pattern to build a new one. So the cab was measured and CAD drawings made of each separate component with all the specific details. Then these parts were laser cut, so all the guys had to do was put it together. But not with bolts. The cab was assembled using rivets, just like the original. So they basically have a brand new 1940s cab for the engine, and the original cab will be on display in the museum. The rolling trucks and drive wheels were also completely gone through and rebuilt, and new metal tires put on the drive wheels. And when all that was done, the boiler was set back down on the wheels, and all those big metal parts began to start looking like a locomotive again. Now, remember all those rusty tubes and flues that had to come out of the boiler? Well, now was the time to replace them. And that involves some heavy lifting, some precision fitting.
No, give me a bump. There you go. Try clamping it right there. I was at 3/16.
And a tub of Crisco.
We use Crisco to lubricate the roller because it's natural. It's not petroleum-based. Petroleum-based lubricants will get into a weld and cause porosity and other inclusions that you don't want.
If you like cars, if you like coffee, you're gonna love Gearz coffee cars. Because in each pack, you'll find a special blend of rich, robust coffee to get your blood pumping, as well as a collectible cartoon sticker and matching photo card of some of the wildest vehicles Stacey has built or featured over the years. Collect the whole series and be sure to keep an eye out for the ultra-rare Strange Brew card that are added to random packages to keep things interesting. It's Gearz coffee cars, the best bean on the car scene. Can't get enough Gearz? Make sure to check out the Tales of a Gearhead podcast, where Stacey brings a lifetime of automotive knowledge, friendships, and expertise to the listener. Also, check out our social media channels for updates and videos of Gearz projects, as well as special contests, giveaways, and events. If you have a vehicle you want to enter into What Are You Working On, go to staceydavid.com and submit it. There's also the online store and tons of other Gearhead information that will encourage you to get out there, build something, and go drive it.
Hey, welcome back. If you've been following along with the restoration of Locomotive 576, you're probably starting to get an idea of how daunting a multi-year, multi-million-dollar restoration can be. But fortunately, it's not all work and no play, because eventually, somebody's going to have to run that train, which means the guys needed to get some actual hands-on experience with a running, driving steam locomotive. Take a look.
All of this has really opened my eyes to how much labor it takes to operate these things. You know, throughout the day, you also have to make sure that everything stays in an operating and running condition, and it takes a lot of people to do that.
So, where does the project stand at this point? Well, the restoration is over 80% complete, which means there's a good chance that in the next few months, they're going to be doing some shakedown runs to make sure that locomotive is ready to haul passengers, which means there's still time for you to get out and volunteer and be part of this amazing project. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime deal.
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, a baby's first steps, but our baby is, you know, 82 years old. So it's just really, you know, going to be a really emotional moment, I think, for everybody. And then the stress will flood back in, that we got to make this thing successful. But yeah, I think we'll share a cigar and a glass of champagne for sure.
Because once she's done and ready to run and pull passenger cars, they're going to need a lot of people to keep this long train of Nashville history running. And riding the rails on number 576 will probably be one of the coolest experiences a gearhead can ever have.
We have a fantastic market to tap into. To bring that kind of joy with riding behind a steam locomotive and riding a train to the people of Nashville who haven't had that, to bring back that piece of history and allow them to experience it in their own hometown, in my own hometown, that's going to be a phenomenal experience.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Corey, and he is from Roseville, Ohio, and his project is a 1983 Ford YT16 lawnmower. Look at this. This is like no lawnmower you've ever seen, man. This is awesome. Now, he said he got the idea for this thing by reading magazines and messing around on the farm and looking at these old tractors and just wanting to do something different. And he said the challenging part of making a 1,200-pound rig on 42-inch tall tires appealed to the kid in him. Because he said he grew up with monster trucks. So here's what's going on here. Now look at this. The only original parts to the lawnmower are the Briggs & Stratton 16 horsepower opposed twin engine and the original body. Now it's sitting on a chromoly tube chassis with AX5 Jeep Wrangler transmission and Suzuki Samurai axles, and those are held in place with cut and flipped quarter elliptical Jeep YJ springs. And with 42-inch tall implement tires, that's tractor tires, he said this thing has 15 inches of clearance under the differentials. That is so great, thinking outside the box. And the cool thing about this is it looks like you've done the work well, so you haven't just hacked it together. So this is actually a good off-road rig. Now, obviously he loves it, his kids love it, so man, great job on this. So, to recognize that, we are going to give you a Super bead roller from Woodward Fab. This is a manual bead roller. It comes with a bunch of dies so you can roll beads and flanges. And then we are going to give you a Gearz fender cover. You don't have fenders on that tractor, but you can use it on something else. Then we're going to give you a Gearz project planning book. Now this is going to be important because it's going to allow you to keep track of everything you've done to that crazy vehicle. And then finally, we're going to give you a copperhead die cast and a pouch of Gearz coffee car. So you can open that up and enjoy the coffee and see what collectible sticker there might be inside. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this and get your projects featured on the show, you got to send them to us. Go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On? The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation. Also, make sure you check out our social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all at Official Stacey David. YouTube is also the place to view all of your favorite Gearz episodes, as well as the Gearz Restoration Series and our full project builds that follow a project from beginning to end. And finally, if you're a radio person, be sure and check out our podcast, Tales of a Gearhead. All right, that wraps it up for us today, which means it is time for you to get out there and find yourself a project and get those hands busy working on something. We'll see you next time.